Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining today. So today we are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd Canto, 5th chapter to 8th chapter overview. So I'll start with the prayers and then we'll go from there. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nastiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kupasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. My obeisances to all the devotees here. So let me start sharing my screen so we can go through. Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, good. So Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 5th chapter to 8th chapter we'll discuss today. It's an overview, not intricate details. So just before we get into the today's section, I'll briefly summarize the first 4 chapters of the 3rd canto very briefly. Essentially, we heard at the end of the 2nd canto, Suta Goswami was asked by sages of Naimisharanya, specifically Saunakrushi, who is a representative, about Vidura Maitreya Samvada, Vidura Maitreya conversation. So then Suta Goswami referred to the conversation that happened earlier between Sukadeva Goswami and Parishad Maharaj. So where Parishad Maharaj asked the same question, can you please tell me about Vidura Maitreya Samvada? Then before the Sukadeva Goswami started to describe Vidura Maitreya conversation, he gave the background why Vidura got out of Hastinapur because of insult of Duryodhana, and how he went to pilgrimage, how he met Uddhava, and how Uddhava related so many wonderful pastimes of Krishna to him, and then how Uddhava directed him to take shelter of Maitreya Muni. So that's what was the section for first 4 chapters. Now, toward the end of the 4th chapter, yesterday we saw how Vidura finally went to Hardwar and met Maitreya Muni at the bank of Ganges. So that's where now, okay, this one basically another way to describe this thing in a summary way is first 4 chapters through Uddhava describing about Krishna, we heard the wonderful nature of the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is the shelter of the creation, Angi. We heard about how his merciful nature, how he does different bewildering activities, but she is a shelter for all. Like that we heard yesterday, the first 4 chapters. And then when Vidura met Maitreya, now in the 5th chapter of this section, where Maitreya will start to describe the topic of Sarga, or the primary creation, or Anga, based on Vidura's inquiries. You already heard a lot about primary creation Sarga and secondary creation Visarga in the summary of 2nd canto. This is like a repeat to that with a little bit more extra detail. So that's what we're going to see Sarga in this chapter briefly. So that's the introduction to the 5th chapter. Now this is the overall summary of the 5th chapter. Initially, Vidura will ask certain questions to Maitreya Rishi, and then Vidura expresses his eagerness. I want to hear Krishna Katha like that, exclusively Krishna Katha like that. Exclusive means not anything else. I want only Krishna Katha, like that. So that is a wonderful set of verses we'll see. And then after that, hearing Vidura's questions, like we have seen in the first canto also, where speaker always honors the questions of the listener, whoever is asking questions, devotee asking questions. So Maitreya Muni really honors Vidura for his questions and expresses his gratitude for questions again. And then Maitreya Rishi starts to describe the process of creation one more time. One more time means what is already described by Sukadeva Goswami in the second chapter, second canto, is described as Sarga, the primary process of creation here. And then during the process of creation, at certain stage, everything becomes stalled. There's no movement further in the creation. That's when elemental demigods offer praise to Supreme Lord, so that by his mercy, they can proceed forward with the service of creation, like that. That's the high level summary of this chapter. Oh, did I skip a slide? Let me see. Oh, my arrows are not working. Let me see. It's taking time, I think. Okay. Okay, good. So the first verse, Vidura is describing that how Vidura achieved, who was already perfect devotee. Important point. He's already pure devotee also. And he approached another pure devotee, Maitreya Muni, and inquired. So how did he start? He said, give us directions on how one should live in for real happiness. So it's described in the purport. This is emphasizing Vidura's humility and compassion. Vidura is asking questions to Maitreya Muni to get his association. So that shows whenever we inquire someone eagerly and with humility and ready to listen, that shows humility. And why compassion? Because when great souls ask questions, they're not asking for information because they do not know. They're asking in to benefit others who might hear this conversation, and also to see how others can benefit, how others can be pulled out of this suffering in the material world, like that. Those are two factors Prabhupada highlights in the purport. Now, Vijra is still speaking in this section to Maitreya Muni. He's saying, great philanthropic souls, like great saintly personalities, why do they travel? They travel to show compassion to the fallen souls, not to get some special benefit because they want to see some special part of the world, how it is. That is not the purpose they are traveling. They are not traveling to get donations from people. They are not traveling to get more and more followers, more and more disciples. That's not their purpose. They are traveling out of compassion for the fallen souls, to give them, to help them, to awaken them from their current position, to give them importance of the bhakti, to give them mercy. In fact, this you might have discussed in, or you might have read in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur this highlights this point. Bhakti, even though there are 9 stages of bhakti, Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anadrivriti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema, like that, right? So first stages are Shraddha, Sadhusanga. The Shraddha means having some little faith. Then Sadhusanga, devotee association. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur analyzes, even this Shraddha is not something that we are great and we have the Shraddha. That's why we are able to start the devotion service. Even this Shraddha is created by pure devotees especially and other devotees. Because by their mercy, they will give us some service to do. If they give us some service to do, through that service, we can develop some Shraddha. Shraddha in Bhakti, Shraddha in hearing, Shraddha in Shastra, like that. That is a faith. So that is the benefit of having any kind of devotee association. So now he's asking, give me instructions on the transcendental devotion service to the Lord directly. He's not asking any other instructions here, Vidura. So there is a no nonsense topics basically. Then he asks bunch of questions. These are covered in several sections later on, including several cantos, some other questions of Vidura to Maitreya. Because the conversation I mentioned, goes between Viduramatraya primarily in the third canto and fourth canto. So he asks in the next set of verses, please tell me about Purushavasaras. What are Purushavasaras? Most of you might be knowing already. Like for the purpose of creation, Supreme Lord expands himself into Karnadaksa Vishnu, and from his body, from his pores, all the universes come out, like here being described. Multitudes of universes come out from Karnadaksa Vishnu. And then he enters into each of the universe as Garbhodaksa Vishnu. And he is called, actually, Karnadaksa Vishnu is called Paramatma of the whole material creation. And then when he enters into each universe, like this, each bubble here is like a universe, material universe. When he's entering as Garbhodaksa Vishnu into each of the universe, he is called as the Paramatma of the universe. That means he's the real Shakti with which everything is running. He is giving the empowerment for everything to run there. And then once he goes to the universe, he expands himself again as Kshirodaksha Vishnu, as Paramatma we know of, into each of the living entities, and also into each of the atoms also. That's why even matter is having structure because of Paramatma. And Paramatma is there in each living entity, so he's guiding us like that. That's the other portion. So then he's asking about Purushavasaras, and he asks about, tell me about Lord's different forms that are there, and tell me specifically about Lord's forms or avatars that he specifically takes for doing different wonderful pastimes, leelas we call it. So he's asking about all of those, and then he asks about how, please describe me how about the living conditions of jivas within different planets, like that he asks. And then please describe about different living creatures that are there also. Like that whole bunch of questions he asked basically in the first few verses here. So then I'm waiting for the go to the next slide. Yeah, good. And then this section is important because it says this verse is describing, is specifically asking, please don't tell me, I'm not interested in any social topics or political topics, please. I'm only interested in pure Krishna Katha. So in this section, he describes that I already heard about different histories like Mahabharata, which I heard from Vyasdeva, uh, but they're not satisfied me, he says. So one thing to note here is we should not take this as uh, insulting or minimizing Mahabharata. Mahabharata also is a great literature. However, Mahabharata's main focus is to describe what is good, what is bad for proper functioning of the people. Of course, we know Mahabharata also has Bhagavad Gita embedded in it, which is the core part of Mahabharata. So it's described Vyasdeva was intelligent to give nice stories, politics, social integral topics like that, to keep people interested, to keep their interest going. And then right in the middle, right before the war starts, before almost the climax, then he inserted Bhagavad Gita for all our benefit like that. So like that, uh, here Mahabharata is not to be minimized, but pure Krishna Katha, directly glorifying Supreme Lord. Like you might have heard in the first canto also, Nardamani describes how Srimad Bhagavatam is such a wonderful literature that it glorifies Supreme Lord directly like that. So that's what we are hearing here, where he's expressing the interest of Krishna Katha. And he says, in this verse, he says, who in the human society will not be satisfied by hearing the talks about the Lord, by hearing Krishna Katha, who is worshipped by great devotees. Why? Because by hearing Krishna Katha, it can cut off one's bondage just by hearing Krishna Katha. That is the glory of hearing Krishna Katha, he is saying. Um, okay, I will read the verse also here. It's a nice verse. Kastripnyurat tita pado abhidhanat satreshu va suribir idyamanat ya karnanadim purushasyo yato Bhava Pradam Geharatim Chinnati. So basically, any bondage with the material family affection will be cut off, like that he says. And then in the 12th verse, he describes briefly Vyasadev's purpose of writing Mahabharata, which is to attract the general mass of people, that is common people, to Krishna Katha, which is Bhagavad Gita, through the material topics like that. And then he says, he glorifies Krishna Katha, hearing Krishna Katha specifically. This is a wonderful verse. He says, Krishna Katha increases indifference to all other things. That means all other things that are not related to Krishna, and vanquishes all miseries without delay. That is the power of Krishna Katha. So the verse itself goes like this. Sasraddhadanasya vivardhamana viraktim anyatra karoti pumsaha hare padanusmriti nirvritasya samasta dukkapyayam asudatte. Basically, all the miseries will go away and it will increase the indifference for all the other things, the material things, basically, just by hearing Krishna Katha. That is the power of hearing Krishna Katha, he says. So now, in the 14th verse, he says, sinful and ignorant people, they are averse to hearing topics of Krishna, topics of hearing Krishna Katha. That means they are pitied by the pitiable also. That means pure devotee is a nice sequence described in this verse. Yeah. In this verse, it describes about karmis, jnanis, and also bhaktas. Basically, jnanas were endeavoring for impersonal accomplishments, achieving Brahmajyoti. They pity people who are struggling hard to enjoy material senses. They pity them. But the pure devotees pity even the jnanis also. Why? Because pure devotees are achieving the highest achievement in terms of enjoyment, happiness in serving Krishna, in the Bhagavan feature of the Lord, like that. So that's why they are pitying karmis who are wasting their life in rituals to enjoy material body, and they pity jnanis who are engaged in speculation also. So in the 15th verse, then he says, can you please speak the essence of all the topics? That means, which is Harikatha. Harikatha is the main essence, because it can do good to everyone, he says. So kindly describe that Harikatha, which is the essence of all topics for our welfare. How? He gives an example. Like bees collect honey from flowers. So bees don't eat the flower petals. They directly go know where is the essence, honey, sweetest portion of the flower, and then extract that portion. Similarly, Krishna Katha is the sweetest portion of everything we can hear. So please share Krishna Katha, please, like that he's saying. So now, uh, is indicated here that Maitreya could not decide what Krishna Katha to tell him. Sometimes we also have this experience when somebody, children, for example, ask a story to tell. We'll think, what story to tell today? Should I tell about Lord Chaitanya story? Should I tell about Krishna story? Like that we'll think, right? Similarly, here is described Maitreya Muni was in a puzzle. What story, what pastime should I tell him? Because Krishna Katha is so vast, like that. So Maitreya Rishi, when he said like that, thought like that, actually, oh, I lost one verse here, looks like 16th verse. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Here, 16th verse, he gives the indication. Please speak about Purushavasaras first. Remember, we talked about Purushavasaras, Karnasya Vishnu, Shirodak Vishnu, and Garbhadasya Vishnu, the avatars of Krishna in relation to material creation, like that. So that's what he asked him to tell first. Then after hearing this, Maitreya Muni honors Vidura for his questions and he expresses his gratitude. That's what we'll see in this set of verses. He's basically starts to speak for the benefit of all is described. Then he says, by your glorious inquiries like this, you showed mercy both to me personally and to the world also, because he's giving the opportunity for him to absorb in Krishna, meditation of Krishna, and share Krishna Katha also. That way, both of them are getting benefited. Both Vidura and Maitreya are getting benefited like that. And then he says, "Hmm, it's not surprising that you're giving me mercy like this, because you were born from great father like Vyasdev, and you accepted Lord without any kind of deviation, that you have unalloyed devotion, basically, like that is saying. And then he says, not only that you have your great parentage in this life right now, because you're born from Vyasdev, but actually in the previous life you were a Yamaraja. That's another pastime. Prabhupada writes briefly in the purport how in the past life Vidura was a Yamaraja, and at that time when Mandavya Muni did a small mistake. For that small mistake, he was almost getting ready to. He got the punishment from the king to get die. Basically, uh, capital punishment to get killed. Basically, so for that, he cursed Yamraja to take birth in the next life as Vidura, like that. That pastime is described in the purport briefly by Prabhupada. So is glorifying Vidura, saying that not only you have great father right now as Vyasadeva, but you were a great personality in the past life also as Yamaraja, like that. And then he says, uh, and he also says, not only that, you are the Lord's eternal associate. That is why, for your sake, Lord personally left instructions with me. That means before departing from here. That's why you saw such a great personality like that is honoring him. So then, going to the next section, Maitreya Muni starts to explain the process of creation now. Actually, this section is a little bit technical, but it is almost a repeat of the second canto section with a few additional details that we'll go through. So this picture, as I mentioned yesterday, the main sources for my slides were Gauranga Darshan Prabhu's Bhagavad Pravaha presentation series in the YouTube, and also Bhagavad Pravaha Bhagavad Subodhini book that he wrote for studying. So these pictures I took from that these two sources, primary pictures in the content. So what we can go through the high level overview of this section. Essentially, these set of verses describe the process of creation. Remember, we talked about the two creations. One is called the primary creation, or the sarga, which is done by the Supreme Lord, which establishes the foundational elements for Brahma to utilize for his secondary creation, or visarga. So the primary creation is being described here. Basically, Mahavishnu, uh, we know Mahavishnu is the expansion of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Many of you might know, but I'll briefly touch upon that topic. So maybe I should have a picture also about that. Let me see if I can quickly find picture, I'll share it on the screen. If not, I'll just verbally describe to you the briefly how from Krishna, Supreme Lord, everybody else came in incarnations like that. If I can quickly find this picture, I'll bring up. If not, I will just. Okay, I found the picture. Let me share my screen. I think you may be seeing only the PowerPoint. Let me see. Oh, not this. Yeah. Okay. You can see this. Basically, this is important. That's why I'm briefly touching on it. Maybe you might have covered it in previous session already, but I'll briefly touch on it. Basically, from Supreme Lord Krishna, first expansion is Balaram. And from Balaram, we get the first Chaturvyuha expansion of from them. Who are they? Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Anuruddha. And from this Sankarshana or Mula Sankarshana, then Narayana comes. From this Narayana, another Chaturvyuha comes. They are Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And from this Sankarshana comes Mahavishnu. So when we talk about creation, we're starting right here now. Okay? And when I talked about Purushottara, I explained about these three personalities earlier in the beginning of the call, when we were starting the summary of the 5th chapter. Yeah? So this is the overall flow. Now, let me share back the presentation. Okay. So that Mahavishnu, he's glancing material nature, and through that glance, he impregnates the jivas. Jivas means living entities, souls, along with their karma that they accrued in the past, and also their swabhava, or the nature they accrued in the past lives, like that. And then also he he also sends his kala, time energy. We'll describe more about this in one of the verses coming up also. Basically, the time energy, actually it is described how the time energy is making everything to act, everything to set into motion. One underlying principle in this section that Sri Prabhupada emphasizes whenever this creation section comes is that everything is possible primarily because of Supreme Lord's empowerment, primarily because of Supreme Lord's will. Otherwise, nothing can move in the world, like that he describes. Yesterday also we talked about how Krishna is the cause of all causes. Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Ishvara Paramakrishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam, like that, right? So that is another principle Prabhupada emphasizes in these purports whenever this section comes. So what we heard about is the top section where Mahavishnu, through the Mahavishnu's glance, there are additional details in Brahma Samhita also, how that glance is the Shambhu, like that is described. And then he wanted to awaken the souls. Their purpose of creation also is described in this section by Prabhupada, that how purpose of creation, material creation, is so that way he wants to give the conditioned souls an opportunity to reform ourselves and go back to Supreme Lord and stay in eternal happiness in his service, like that. So Supreme Lord impregnates material nature with the jivas along with their karma and swabhava, and also the time factor or the kala. And then this material nature at this stage is called pradhana, at which stage the three material modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are sattva, rajas, and tamaguna, are in inactive state. Later, the same material nature, because of the impregnation done by Mahavishnu, it is transformed into Mahatattva. So, Mahatattva is initially primarily in the mode of goodness or Sattva-guna. But later, when that Mahatattva transforms into Rajaguna or Sattva passion becomes prominent, it's called Sutra Tattva, it seems. It's a little technical, but thanks to Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, he made it easy for us to understand with this chart, some of it at least. So then that Mahatattva later transforms into, if you notice at this stage, Sattva-guna was prominent and later passion became prominent. And then when it gets transformed to Ahankara, when the Tamoguna or ignorance become pregnant, like that. Is interesting point Gauranga Darshan Prabhu mentions here is that overall this is Ahankara or false ego in the Tamoguna here, but even Tamoguna can have subsections, subcategories of goodness, passion, and ignorance again. So this Ahankara in contact with goodness, what does it produce? In contact with passion, what does it produce? In contact with ignorance, what does it produce? That's what is being shown in this chart here, like that. In contact with goodness is Adideva, primarily mind and the 10 sense devatas, the controlling deities for the 10 senses are there. What are the 10 senses? We know 5 knowledge acquiring senses and 5 working senses we have. So for the mind, interestingly, if you notice, mind is in mode of goodness originally. So it's possible that mind can be made calm by cultivating goodness in our life. Then through mode of passion, it results in prana, the 10 senses, See, these are 10 sense devatas or controllers of senses, and these are 10 senses themselves, the gross senses. And then the intelligence, they are the output from ankara in connection with mode of passion. And ankara in connection with ignorance are the 5 tanmatra. Tanmatra means sense objects like touch, taste, smell, like that, sense objects. And the 5 elements we know, panchabhutas we call them, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, like that. So this is called primary creation because this is generating these foundational elements that Lord Brahma can use further to do the secondary creation or visarga. This portion is done by Mahavishnu. So this section of verses are describing how these foundational elements are created at this point of time. Yeah. So now, once these are created, what happens is there's no further action happening. So I clicked on the next slide, is not coming. I'll wait for some more seconds. I'll click one more time if it works. If not, I have to refer to the book only. Let me see. Wow. Let me refer to the book in the meantime. Oh, good, it's coming. Okay. Let me see. Before this, 2238. Yeah, this is the next slide only. Okay, good. So, actually, this section is going towards the prayers of demigods. Okay. Before that, what is being described in the final verse of this section, which is concluding the Sarga portion, is that of all the physical elements, all the qualities are due only to the final touch of Lord's glance. Remember, one of the key themes Prabhupada emphasizes in these purports, in this section I mentioned, is because of the Supreme Lord's touch. That is why, even in terms of the glance, that's why everything is happening. Otherwise, not just mechanically, everything is not happening. With the Supreme Lord's authority, Supreme Lord's sanction, Supreme Lord's will only, it's happening like that. So, what is the purpose behind the creation? Is his compassion. Towards whom? Towards the conditioned souls who turned away from Krishna, who wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna. For them, this creation is initiated by Supreme Lord out of his own compassion, like that. So, going to the next verse, 30th verse. This section, 30th verse talks about how, oh, this guy is not moving yet. I'll click one more time. Okay, good. So basically, remember, all the foundational elements are created now by the Supreme Lord. Now, having created the foundational elements, the controlling deities are the personified elements themselves. They are stuck. They are not able to do their function, what they want to do. Basically, to further the creation, all the elements need to come together, so that way creation can further happen. But that's not happening here. So that is why what happened here, the controlling deities are understanding their inability. They are offering prayers so that they can perform their service. So this is a wonderful example and lesson for us that when we are not able to do something, it's only because we are not getting the enough mercy and empowerment from Krishna. So we should be in prayerful mood, seeking Krishna's empowerment and Krishna's mercy, so that we can continue our services. So that is one. This is a way we can actually cultivate service mode by praying to Krishna before starting the service, in the middle of the service, and after the service. Remembering that only because of Krishna we are able to do whatever we can do, like that. So that is controlling deities of the elements that are created now. They start to offer beautiful, beautiful prayers. They're very wonderful. We'll touch on some of them, most of them, at a high level.
Yeah, that's they both right. They both all up with it. Wow.
Mute.
That's the only hill, right?
Okay. Yeah, I'm muted. Okay, some beautiful prayers they're offering. Remember the context of these prayers? They are offering because they're not able to do their service. Number one. I'll give a high level overview of these sections within the prayers so that it's clear for us. They start with glorifying the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, and then they describe how people unqualified they cannot take shelter of lotus feet, and they describe how qualified people like devotees they take shelter of his lotus feet, and they finally place a request that please enlighten us, please give us direction, please give us ability, please give us the potency so that we can continue helping in the creation like that. We can perform our service like that. So generally, long time ago, I heard a seminar from Radhika Raman Prabhu who was describing the elements of prayer. He was describing when we some of the key elements of a prayer are we offer obeisances to Supreme Lord, and then we glorify the Supreme Lord, and then if third element is not always compulsory, but if we need, then we also place a request before the Supreme Lord like that. So the key aspect is uh, showing our submission to Supreme Lord, being in submissive mood by offering obeisances, and by appreciating the glories of the Supreme Lord, then we go to the request. Not just go before Krishna and directly ask what we want, right? This is a practice as practicing devotees we can cultivate. Of course, pure devotees get that naturally because they are always in awe and appreciation of Supreme Lord's glories. But we can cultivate either by seeing the standard prayers or by hearing from devotees or senior devotees how to pray like that. So here now with that background, let's go through some of these verses. Now, first few verses, 39 to 43, they're glorifying the shelter of Supreme Lord's lotus feet. So they're saying your lotus feet are like an umbrella for the surrendered souls. Umbrella can protect us from rains, but how are the lotus feet compared to umbrella? What are they doing? What are they protecting us from? They're throwing off all miseries. That's how that's how they're able to give shelter, like umbrella gives shelter from rain. And then they is saying uh, people, conditioned souls are in ignorance, but to remove their ignorance, you are the source of all the knowledge that can remove their ignorance like that. And then you are the shelter of all the holy things in there in this world, holy places, tirtha places, tirthas, and then tirthastalas, and holy men, saintly persons, holy rivers like Ganges. You are the shelter of all of them also, and you vanquish your lotus feet vanquishes all the sinful reactions if you take shelter of them like that. And then okay, it's not going to the next slide. Let me see. Okay, it went. Or maybe I need to click with the mouse. Let us try next time. So then he says, hearing about your lotus feet and by meditating upon your lotus feet in devotion, we get knowledge and also detachment. Jnana Vairagya. These are called couplets. Bhakti gives rise to Jnana and Vairagya, knowledge and detachment. We don't need to endeavor for them separately. Through Bhakti, to know Krishna, to grow in Bhakti, to appreciate Bhakti, we can develop knowledge and detachment to please Krishna. So he's saying by uh, meditating and by hearing about lotus feet, it gives knowledge and detachment. And then lotus feet also awards remembrance and courage to the devotees. That means they'll give fearlessness. So that's how we'll get courage like that. And remembrance also, smarana, it can give like that. Okay, good, it worked. Arrow keys worked also. Okay, then he starts to describe who are the qualified people who can benefit from Lord's lotus feet, who are the unqualified people like that. So unqualified people, oh, I notice is already 7:15. I think I need to speed up. We're in the fifth chapter still. I'll speed up a little bit. So basically, The unqualified people are those who have the material conception or bodily conception, and they're thinking, I am this body and everything related to body is mine. This is also called aham mameti consciousness also. So such people, they cannot take shelter of your lotus feet, he says. And also offensive people, people who do offenses, and people who are engrossed in engaging in materialistic activities. That means they're only how to get enjoyment for my body. They're focused on that only. Such people also cannot take shelter of your lotus feet to get all the benefits that he described already. Like that is glorifying. And then he says, who are qualified people who take shelter of lotus feet? Your pure devotees. They can see your lotus feet and take shelter of lotus feet because their only aim is to relish your activities, he says. So that is a, then, oh, we skipped one slide, looks like. Yeah. And then he says, simply by drinking the nectar of Krishna Katha and with earnest bhakti doing devotion service, we can easily achieve complete knowledge, renunciation, and we can attain spiritual world. Like that. And then 47th, the pain of Gnanis is comparing Gnanis with Bhaktas in this verse. He says Bhaktas are superior to Gnanis. How? The Gnanis, their path is very, very difficult. They have to do lots of austerities. Whereas Bhakti, we think our austerities is difficult. But Gnanis' austerities are impossible almost in this age especially. So like that, is comparing. Whereas devotees, when they're engaging in Bhakti by serving Krishna, they're actually relishing pleasure with the mercy of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. That's what he's expressing here, how the bhaktas are superior in that sense. And then he's expressing his own disqualification. He's saying that we are born of three modes and we cannot act concertedly for our pleasure. These are all the demigods, elemental demigods speaking, right? They're saying we are influenced by three modes. We cannot act in cooperation for your pleasure. So that's why please enlighten us. So this is a portion after glorification, after obeisances, glorification, they switch to the request portion now of the prayer. Please enlighten us regarding the ways by which we can offer you in sacrifice all the grains and commodities, like that he says. They are saying. And then they say, you are the original founder of all the demigods like us. But you are unborn. You're not in our category. You're unborn, you're the oldest, and you're unchanging. That means he's transcendental, they're saying. And then there's a final request they're placing. What is the request? Please give us your guidance, directions. Please give us perfect knowledge and also potency. For what reason? So that we can enjoy? No. So that we can do your service. Similarly, we can also pray to Krishna. Please bless me with right energy, right knowledge and ability and humility so that I can continue doing your service nicely, like that. So that's the demigod prayers. So just to summarize this chapter again, Vidura asked some questions in the beginning of the chapter to Maitreya Rishi and expressed his exclusive interest in hearing Krishna Katha only and nothing else, no political topics. And Maitreya appreciated Vidura's questions and honored him and expressed gratitude for his questions. And then Maitreya Muni described the process of creation, specifically the Sarga, which is done by Supreme Lord himself. And then he described how the creation was halted after creating foundational elements. Then elemental demigods offered praise to Krishna, Supreme Lord, so that way they can be empowered with the direction and ability or potency so that they can continue the creation. That's how the 5th chapter ends. Now the 6th chapter, basically, this describes the development of the gigantic universal form, also called as Vishwarupa or Virat Rupa also. And then different demigods, how they come from the universal form is described in this section. And then how the development of planets, living entities or varnas are happening from the Virat Rupa is described. And then finally, in the final section, Maitreya Muni felt is unworthy to describe Krishna Katha, to describe Krishna's glories, like that he says. In the middle of the section, he already described a little bit, but he still feels that humility in himself. So here, The first 10 verses are describing the creation of the universal form. This in one sense repeat from the second canto. There's one thing, they're not in the sequential order, but Gauranga Darshan Prabhu nicely puts it in sequential order. So I took it from there, that this text. Basically what is happening is doing a recap of the initial creation. Basically Supreme Lord saw that after the elements were created, the creation stopped functioning. Then elemental demigods prayed for him. So Krishna gave his mercy. He gives his Kali energy. That is energy of cohesion. Energy of cohesion means something that binds everything together so that the creation can continue. Gauranga Krishna Prabhu gives a nice example here. Like let us say somebody is cooking in the kitchen. The person cooking will assemble all the ingredients. You will get vegetables, you will get some spices, you will get some oil, all those things, oil or ghee. And then if they're just there like that, it will not become curry. The person who is cooking needs to mix all these ingredients in a certain order and sides for heating for certain time like that, right? So just the ingredients cannot do anything until the person cooking is making it happen. Similarly, only because of Krishna's cohesion energy when she is supplied, then only they start to combine together to continue the creation like that. So that means Krishna's hand is critical in the creation, and for that matter, in anything that happens. So the elements combine together to form a fetus in which all the planets are there. Characharas means the moving and non-moving entities are also existed like that. Then at that time, the Karnaksa Vishnu enters each universe as a Garbhodaksa Vishnu, and then he gives it life. All the living entities who are there become enlivened, it seems, as if awakened from sleep. And is described not only ordinary living entities, including demigods, they are also awakened from sleep, like that is described. And then if it's further described how the Virat Purusha differentiated into functioning universe consisting of three Shaktis. Jiva Shakti, that is consisting of Jiva's consciousness. Prana Shakti, different 10 life airs. Prabhupada describes in the purport here how prana is the air that we're inhaling through the nose, it seems. Apana is the air that is passed through the rectum. Samana is the air that is coming when we belch because of undigested food in the stomach. Then udana is another kind of air that goes through the throat, it seems. If somebody chokes us by throat, we are not able to, that udana is blocked, it seems, life air. That's why they die. Like that, Prabhupada explains the purport, functions of the different kinds of airs, prana shakti. And then Atma Shakti is manifesting the subtle senses, gross sense organs, and sense objects. What is subtle senses means? If I'm able to see, normally we know only I can see because of the eye as a gross sense. But I'm able to see because of a sense devata who's there, who's controlling that. And then I'm able to see because I have the subtle sense of seeing. That is why I'm able to see, even though gross sense, if gross sense is good also, if my subtle sense is not there, I cannot see. That's what is described here in this section. So then sense devatas. So after this initial manifestation of Virat Rupa is described like this, then he starts to describe, Maitreya Muni starts to describe how different demigods are also coming. Basically, this is a nice explanation I took from Gauranga Darshan Prabhu's Bhagavad Subodhini. This table is very easy to understand. Basically, in the Virat Rupa, the gross organ becomes manifest first in the Virat Rupa as mouth. So from there, presiding deity of that particular organ, like for mouth, the presiding deity is Agni, it seems, fire god. Then he manifests. And further, the subtle sense organ, the voice manifests, it seems. And the sense object means what is the result of that? The result of having the mouth and voice is that we can express ourselves in words like that. Similarly, the palate is the gross sense organ, and Varuna is the presiding deity, and the tongue is the subtle sense organ, and function is to taste everything. That is the sense object. So that's how Maitreya Muni describes further creation going on. And then he describes how from the Virat Rupa, different planets are developing, different living entities are developing like that. For example, we know Virat Rupa conception is described in multiple ways. One way is like some of the ways we are seeing here now. One is from the head, heavenly planets are emerging. And then what kind of living entities live in the heavenly planets? Demigods who are primarily in mode of goodness. And from the legs, earthly planets are coming, and human beings in mode of passion are there primarily. And the abdomen sky region, uh, Bhuvar local, like that region. That sky region is there, and their associates of Rudra and ignorance are there, mode of ignorance, like Bhutas, Pretas, they actually live little bit above earthly planet. So similarly, from the same Virat Rupa, another understanding is being given. Different varnas are coming, like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudras, like that. Brahmanas are coming from the mouth, Vedic wisdom, and their role is like teachers and spiritual masters. From the arms of the Virat Rupa, power of protection is coming. That is, the Kshatriyas have that. And what do? They protect the society. And then thighs, means of livelihood is coming, which is Vaishyas. They produce grain and distribute to Prajas. And then from legs, service for the sake of perfecting Dharma is coming. That is for Sudras. Sudras' main function is to do service to other Varnas actually. But for what purpose? To satisfy the Supreme Lord. That is the Daivi Varnashma principle. Purpose of doing every duty is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. So, then last section of this chapter describes Maitri Muni saying, actually, how can I glorify that gigantic universal form, Virat Rupa, that is manifested by internal potency of the Lord Yogamaya, but I'll still glorify him with whatever little capacity I have and whatever I could hear from my Guru, whatever I could understand with my intelligence, whatever I could assimilate with my intelligence. So this is the important principle. Some people say, how can I teach others? How can I share Krishna consciousness with others? I didn't know everything fully yet. No, our Prabhupada's mood is, the moment we hear something about Krishna, we share with others. We don't have to wait for us to become pure devotees to share with others. As long as we share whatever we understand and whatever we heard from others properly, transparently sharing that message without concocting it, without adding things, without subtracting things, without polluting the knowledge like that. That is the only qualification. And then he says, actually, there's highest perfectional gain when one can achieve uh, by hearing the Krishna's activities, pastimes that are put in writing by learned personalities. Just by engaging our ear, which is the purpose, we can go near to the Krishna basically by hearing Krishna's pastime like that. And then that's how that chapter ends. Basically, we saw how Maitreya Muni described the process of creation, and then later on he expressed Supreme Lord's glories are so enormous that he's not so qualified, but still he'll glorify to his capacity, like that he said. And then now, going to the next chapter, Vidura asks some interesting questions in this chapter, 7th chapter. So in this chapter, uh, after Vidura asks questions, Maitreya answers those doubts and recommends bhakti to him. And Vidura shares his heartfelt realizations with Maitreya. This is also a beautiful section. And Vidura asks a whole bunch of questions at the end of the chapter. And he tells, I have confidence in you. Please share Krishna Katha. Please answer this. I know you can answer. You know these things like that. So like that, he says, this is the overview of the chapter. Basically, initial questions are like this. How is the Lord, who is all spiritual, who is transcended to material nature, who is beyond the material modes of nature, how is he connected with material modes? Because you're telling he's creating and is doing all these things. Like that, he asked first question. That is about Ishvara, questions about Ishvara. Now, second category of questions he asks about is Jiva. The That means, how does the pure soul becomes engaged in nations? That means forgetting Krishna, thinking that his body like that, right? How does Jiva suffer? In spite of, actually, in every Jiva there's Supreme Lord as super soul. Then even then, why is Jiva suffering? Even though Lord is there in their heart. Like that, he asked the second questions about Jiva. So these are beautifully answered like this. Basically, he says, I'm going to the second question first. No, I think I don't have slide for first question. Let me explain the first question answer. He explains, Supreme Lord is actually beyond the modes of nature, is transcendent to the modes of nature. He is the controller of the modes of nature. So because he is control of the modes of nature cannot control the Supreme Lord. Modes of nature cannot have any influence of the Supreme Lord. Like that he describes. This is the same principle we hear in Bhagavad Gita and in several sections of Srimad Bhagavatam. How? When the Lord is beyond supreme, beyond the material modes, they cannot control him. Rather, he controls the material modes like that. So he cannot come under influence of the material modes anytime. That's the first answer he gives. Then, actually, that answer comes in later chapters, actually, but mentioning it here in the context. Then, here, for the second question answer, he gives in this chapter. He says, actually, Jiva's distress is because of misidentification alone. What does that mean? Jiva, we as a spirit soul, instead of understanding that I'm a spirit soul, servant of Krishna, we are thinking that I'm this body, I'm this material body that I'm seeing with my eyes. So, because of this misidentification only, they're getting problems, he says. This makes sense. He gives a couple of examples. One example is interesting. He says, somebody is having a dream. Then in the dream, they see that their head is cut off. Normally, if my head is cut off, how can I see? My eyes are there in head only. I cannot see that my head is cut off, separate from body. I cannot see that. So, whereas in the dream, I can see not only the head is cut off, I can see body separately, head separately, cut off also. Because I'm identifying with that material body, I feel pain also. Oh my God, I got hurt like that. Similarly, in this life also, when I identify with the material body, then something happens with my body, some suffering comes, I'm so bogged down with it. And when some little enjoyment comes to the body, I'm so happy with it like that. So because of that, I'm suffering. Because material body is temporary, material body is subject to miseries, we know, especially disease and old age, and death also, of course, ultimately in this life. So because of that misidentification, Jiva is suffering. But if he identifies that he's soul, then he doesn't feel to bother. Like what is happening in dream, somebody wakes up from the dream, they're not worried about it. Because it's just dream, I think. Like that, we need to come out of that misidentification. But then naturally somebody will, Vidura might ask, how do you come out? So Maitreya Muni directly gives a solution. He says, by doing bhakti, by doing devotion service to Krishna, we'll get Krishna's mercy. And through that mercy, will vanquish, will this misconception can go away. Not by our own endeavor, remember, by Krishna's mercy. But how do we attract Krishna's mercy? By doing devotion service to him. So that's how we can get out of this misconception and get out of the suffering he describes. There's a nice example in this regard is described here. I heard from this from Gauranga Darshan Prabhu. Let us say a coconut is dried up inside. Sometimes we shake a coconut, not only we hear water, sometimes it's fully dried up, no water sound, but only something moving inside will sound. That means the coconut pulp inside got dried up and it got disconnected from the shell. That's why it's moving inside and we are hearing the sound. So at that time, whatever happens to the shell, it is not affecting the pulp. Similarly, we inside as a soul, inside the gross material body and the subtle body, if we identify ourselves with the Supreme Lord as His servant and through bhakti, then we can disconnect, even though we are inside this gross and subtle body, we can become liberated and get out of this misidentification with the gross and subtle body. That's the example he gives nicely. So basically, out of the devotion service, we know the 9 process of bhakti. Yesterday also we were briefly discussing Sravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, Lord's qualities vanquishes all material miseries. How? Because it takes away this misconception for us. That's why chanting and hearing regularly is very, very important for us. So that is one important lesson we learned from the first section of this chapter. And the second section of this chapter, we learn another important thing. How actually is not theoretical knowledge that will help us. Knowledge need to become realization. Then only we can act on realization. Unless I'm situated in realization, I will not act in such a way. I might say I'm a spirit soul, not body. But I will still engage in activities that give enjoyment to body, not give suffering to the body like that. But if I understand I'm a spirit soul servant of Krishna, I will engage in activities that are meant for nourishing for the soul, like devotion service to Krishna. So what is the secret for converting that conviction or theory or knowledge to realization? Vaishnava Seva, by doing service. So that is the important component. Just learning knowledge is not enough. We need to develop purity by chanting, and we need to do Vaishnava Seva that will convert our knowledge into realization. So he describes the two big results of service, main results of service. What are the two main results? We develop transcendental ecstasy in doing Krishna service in various relationships. What does the various relationship means? Like we all have a rasa with Krishna. Like it can be neutrality or service as a servant, dasya, sakya as a friend, vatsalya as a parent, parental mood, or conjugal rasa, madhurya rasa, like Krishna's conjugal, like gopis, like that. We can be engaged in service to Krishna and one of those rasas, and we develop transcendental ecstasy through that. And then it dispels all the material distress by engaging in service. So especially in this section, the service to spiritual master, service to pure devotee is emphasized in this section. So that is what we need to keep in mind. And how do we do service to pure devotee? Are they readily available? They're not in my home all the time. So what do we do? Service to pure devotee is done by hearing from them, either recording or physical presence, for example. That's the main service we can do. By hearing from them, by trying to understand the essence, what they're sharing with us, and by trying to apply what they're sharing with us in our life, that will please them so much. And through that mercy, through that we get the mercy. The door of mercy is opened by following the instructions of the pure devotees or spiritual master. That is the best service we can do. Of course, whenever we get an opportunity to render any other service, either physical proximity or remotely we can do some service, that's also good opportunity we should utilize. That's also important. But it starts with the following the instructions like that. And then he says, actually, uh, I'm saying that service is important to get realization, but the service is not so easy to get. It's very, very rare to get. If people are people are always trying to be in enjoying mood in terms of body and not doing any kind of austerity, they can hardly get an opportunity to do service to pure devotees, he's saying. That means we should value any little opportunity we get to serve pure devotee, opportunity to listen from them, opportunity to give some donation to them, opportunity to do help them to come to a home and do a home program, opportunity to give them some water, opportunity to assist in their preaching somehow or other. We should be very grateful and happy and understand that's a rare opportunity, and then take it up eagerly. And then the chapter ends with a whole bunch of questions from Vidura to Maitreya Muni. He says, can you please describe the different vibhutis or opulences of Supreme Lord? Can you describe all that Brahma has created? Can you describe the different planets, different Gunavataras, that's Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, and then Varnashramas, 4 Purusharthas, the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And then he says, can you describe how to completely satisfy Supreme Lord? Like that, he asks a whole bunch of questions. these are elaborated, answers of these are elaborated in several chapters actually in the Srimad Bhagavatam later on. So basically in 7th chapter, we heard about Vidura's inquiries from about Ishvara and Jiva, and then Maitreya Muni answering how when we do bhakti, we can get out of misconception, misidentification with the body, and uh, that way we can be free from suffering. And then he glorified bhakti and glorified rarity of devotion service, rarity of service to spiritual master and pure devotees, and glories of opportunities to do pure devotion service. Like that he described, and Vidura placed some more inquiries. And then actually at the end of the chapter, he also explains that he is very confident that Maitreya can answer his questions like that. Then after that, okay, so 140, good, this is the last chapter. It's a short chapter relatively. Basically, he says, in this, the disciple section of Srimad Bhagavatam, he discussed in the first section. And then Maitreya dispels some of the misconceptions that Vidura might have, and he recommends bhakti based on his questions. And then in the next section, Vidura shares his heartfelt realizations. This is a wonderful section. And Vidura makes for some more inquiries in this section. Okay, let me see if I messed up some sections in this overview. I think I messed up some sections in this overview. I'll correct the slide. I'll describe from the Subodhana itself. First section of the 8th chapter is the disciple section of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the next section talking about reawakening of creation. That means how Garbhodakshaya Vishnu starts the creation. And then Brahma's birth itself and Brahma's search for the absolute truth. And then beautiful darshan of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu that Brahma experienced. That's what is shown here. I'll make a note of the previous slide and update it. Yeah. And then going to this chapter. In this chapter, Vidura said he will want to gain knowledge from Maitreya and ask bunch of questions in the last chapter, right? So Maitreya actually glorifies him that I am so happy, that I am so fortunate that I got your association like that. That's how he starts. And he says, you make the glories of the Supreme Lord very, very new to me, like that he says. You're born in the dynasty of King Puru and you are devoted to Bhagwan. So because of your mercy and your attempt to serve him nicely, actually Krishna's glories are becoming newer and newer at every moment, he says. Then he starts with the question about how to attain real happiness that he asked in 5th chapter, which he says, by rendering devotional service. He says, I will now speak Bhagavatam, like that he says. So then he starts to describe the disciplic succession, how Bhagavatam was carefully handed over from one authority to another authority to another authority, like that. He described how one time Sankarsana was in the lower planetary systems, specifically Patala Loka is described. Then Kumara, headed by Sanat Kumara, requested him to speak Bhagavatam. Then Sankarsana spoke Bhagavatam to the 4 Kumaras, and they spoke Bhagavatam to Sankhya Muni, it seems. Sankhya Muni speak Bhagavatam to Parashara Muni, who is the father of Vyasadeva also, and also to Brihaspati. And Maitreya Rishi, we know, is a disciple of Parashara Muni, is described in a previous chapter yesterday. Maitreya Muni was one of the contemporary of Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is son of Parashara Muni. Maitreya Muni is disciple of Parashara Muni, like that. And then he starts to describe the reawakening of the creation. How, when everything was submerged in the water, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu was lying on the bed of Ananta. And then at that time, he glanced at the material nature and impregnated the living entities, like what we talked about previously. But in summary fashion, he describes. And then from his glance, whole creation started, all the primary creation completed. And then Brahma was born from the lotus flower that came out of the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, that is described. And then Brahma, while moving his eyes in 4 directions, is described. He developed 4 heads, like that is described. And then Brahma was desperately searching, where is Krishna? Who is my source? Let me find out. He starts to go down the stem of the lotus, but he cannot find the source, Supreme Lord. There's a nice lesson Prabhupada gives in this section, that our personal endeavors alone is not sufficient for success. We need the mercy of Krishna and we need the sanction of Krishna. Otherwise, we cannot get success easily like that. That's a key lesson we can learn. And then Brahma hears the words tapa, 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 like that. Then Brahma is so intelligent, first living being entity who is empowered by Krishna, he understands that means I need to meditate on the Supreme Lord. So he starts his meditation, and at that time is described, is this, he could understand this only by inspiration of Lord's mercy is described. And then finally, after Brahma's meditation for a long time, Supreme Lord gives darshan to uh, Brahma, Lord Brahma. Is described. Uh, there's a nice verse in this connection. I will describe. Preksham Shipantam Haritopaladre Sandhyabraniver Ururukma Murdhnaha Ratnodadharaushadi Saumanasya Vanasrajo Venu Bujangri Pangre. Basically, in the purport Prabhupada indicates, when somebody is attracted to Supreme, is no longer attracted to anything inferior. So, when somebody sees the beautiful form of the Lord that is described here, his beautiful bodily luster, and is marked by the beauty of coral mountain, it seems, is compared. And then his yellowish garments are compared to the evening sky, and his helmet bedecked with jewels are compared to golden summit of the mountain. And then his limbs with ornaments, tulsi and garlands are compared with mountain, with waterfalls, herbs, like that. So, Supreme Lord showed his lotus feet that gives somebody pure bhakti. And then Supreme Lord acknowledged the service of the devotees with his beautiful smile, it seems. And that removes all distress of the devotees who are having darshan. And his face was very pleasing with beautiful nose, eyebrows, and the rays from his eyes and earrings, it seems. And the Lord is compared to a sandalwood tree also here in one of the verses. And then in final verses, Lord is compared to a great mountain. How mountain gives shelter for all creatures, Supreme Lord also gives shelter to all living entities, whether they are living, moving, that's like animals, human beings, or non-moving like plants or trees. And then Lord Ananta is his friend. How mountain is a friend of snakes, like that. And thousands of golden peaks are there for a mountain. Similarly, thousands of golden helmeted heads are there for Ananta. Like that is glorified. Supreme Lord is glorified. And then Brahma starts to think about service of the Lord. And Brahma starts to begin the prayers. That's what is described in this last verse. It doesn't describe what prayers Brahma offers. That is coming up in the next chapter. Next chapter is fully dedicated to Lord Brahma's prayers to Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So in this chapter, we heard about Maitreya Muni acknowledging Vidura's great devotion, and he described how Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in one of the disciple succession. This is not the only disciple succession. We know there are 4 disciple successions. This is one of the succession he describes, and then describes the reawakening of the creation from Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and how Lord Brahma was born, how Lord Brahma meditated, and Lord being merciful appeared before Lord Brahma in a beautiful form, and then Lord Brahma started to offer prayers to Supreme Lord. That's where this chapter ends. So let me see, what is the time? Okay, we have 7:50 already. Uh, Thank you for your time. We'll pause here for any comments or questions any of you might have now. So we still have at least 10 minutes. We can go a little bit over also, as long as you're comfortable. Yeah. Yeah. I'll pause here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Anyone has any comments or questions? Hare Krishna, Satyam Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanarjana, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Another Pranam Prabhuji.
Thanks for summarizing this 4 chapters and giving us time and nicely summarizing it. Before I ask any questions about what we discussed, I have a request. I don't know whether it's feasible or not, but I think like 4 chapters is too much to grasp. And if we can maybe 2 to 3 chapters, I think it's good kind of grouping. Because I had we read 4 chapters yesterday.
Yeah.
I watched the videos of Gauranga Das Prabhu, and then 4 chapters is like too much information. Maybe 3 chapters would be like maybe ideal. I don't know, but yeah.
Thank you for your feedback, Prabhuji. I'm just a instrument. So what I'll do is I'll pass on this feedback to the administrators also, so that they can consider your request.
Yeah,
So there's some logistical problem also, because they would have scheduled speakers for different chapters for certain days. But I'll share your feedback with them, Prabhuji. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
So now I'll ask the questions. In chapter 5.6, it talks about like different forms.
Yeah.
So what are those forms it's like talking about?
Oh, okay. 3rd Canto, 5th chapter, 6th verse. Let me see. It says 5th verse, 6th verse. Okay.
Yeah.
6th verse is specifically describing about asking more details about Karnadasya Vishnu sleeping in the Karna ocean, and how Karnadasya Vishnu expands himself as Garbhodakasha Vishnu and Shirodakasha Vishnu,
Okay.
like that, many forms like that.
Okay. And the next question I have is, you showed us a chart, right? So from Krishna, then there is Balram ji. So that chart, I saw Narayan somewhere in between, like after the 4
Correct.
quadruples. Then there is Narayan, and then we have another 4.
Correct.
So when we say like we worship Narayan and we have Narayan temple and all, is that Narayan we worship, or we worship the Karanakashai Vishnu?
Most people, like you probably understood, most people don't have this much understanding. But by Prabhupada mercy, in one of the purports in first canto, he's given all this description for us. Most people don't have that understanding. They just know Vishnu equals Narayana equals Krishna for them. Most people, or even they'll think only Krishna is avatar of Vishnu, like that. So most people don't have that understanding fully. Yeah.
Okay, so most people has the understanding of from the Garbhodakasha Vishnu.
Most people don't know what is the Garbhodakasha Vishnu, Kshirosha Vishnu, right? Most people know there's somebody called Vishnu. Vishnu equals Narayana, like that. With Prabhupada's mercy, we're getting all this knowledge.
Yeah, but India, for example, in my home, I had a Murti or deity Vishnu. It was like 400 standing.
Correct.
Which is, I believe, like Shirodakasha Vishnu is standing.
Yeah, all of them have 400 form. So
yeah, but
that
if we see, like Garbhodakasha Vishnu is lying on Seshna, and
correct.
then Shirodakasha Vishnu is the only Vishnu which I see is standing. Other 2 Vishnus are actually sleeping. I mean, yeah, right,
Correct.
lying.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct, Roji. Yeah. There's no conception. I don't know if I'm clear. No one has the understanding. I didn't, before coming to Krishna consciousness, I didn't know there is something called Shirodakasha Vishnu. There is something called Narayana is separate. I didn't know, right? That's what I'm talking about. It's dependent upon the conception of the worshipper. Actually, there's another complex topic also. Depending upon the conception of the worshipper and consciousness of the worshipper, they get the corresponding result also. For example, somebody is worshipping Lord Shiva. In one conception, they get one result. Another conception, they get a different result. Meaning they can go to spiritual world, they can go to material world, like that. Different destinies are there, like that. Make sense?
Okay. Yes, bro. Then you also show like how the Bhagavatam was like the parampara, right?
Right.
So Like the Kumara Sampradaya you talked about, like the one you showed.
Yes, that is Kumara Sampradaya. You understood properly. Yeah, that is Kumara Sampradaya. Out
And
of four Sampradayas, Kumara Sampradaya is only one of them. Yeah.
and in ISKCON, we follow that Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya.
No,
We are
no.
part of.
We are part of the Brahma Sampradaya. From Supreme Lord gave knowledge to Brahma. Brahma gave to Narada Muni. Narada Muni gave me Vasudev. Like that, the
Okay.
line comes down to Madhvacharya, and then finally it comes to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like that, it comes to our Goswamis, and then finally Srila Prabhupada, like that. That's why we call ourselves Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya. That means Lord Chaitanya significance. Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya
Yeah.
Sampradaya. That is Sampradaya we are in. Yeah.
And Prabhu, in many of the verses, there's like called Tattva. So Mahatattva. Now, what is Tattva means? What does Tattva means? Is
Okay. Yeah. I have limited understanding. Tattva means truth. That is my understanding. Then in the case of Mahatattva, that is the original material nature before the whole creation came. That's how is the sum total of all material elements basically. That
okay.
is the understanding of Mahatattva terms basically. Tattva generally is explained as truth. Yeah.
Okay. And one of the sections we describe like all the controlling demigods are they prayed to Garbhodakashayi Vishnu.
Right.
Did they pray to Garbhodakashayi Vishnu?
Yeah, that's what is described there. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. I think that's how it's described there. I think Karnavasaya Vishnu is the one who is creating the foundation elements at that time. But let me see that
Okay.
section. Prayers were in which chapter 6? I think that's the 5th chapter, I think, right? Let me see. Yeah, prayers of demigods.
Right. So, but at that time,
It does them.
demigods were not. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead, Prabhu. Yeah.
So demigods were born at that time because I felt like nothing was there. It only.
Oh, that's a good question, actually. Yes. The very important question. One devotee asked Gauranga Darshan Prabhu this question also in the Bhakti Vaibhav class I'm attending. So the answer is like this. Basically, at that time, material creation, universe is not there, and different planetary systems are not there. So demigods are not there. Demigods as we know today. That is your point.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
So these
Yes.
demigods are expansions of the Supreme Lord, it seems. So at this stage. And later on, again, when the creation further unfolds further, right? That time, other demigods that we know are coming also. The Jiva living entities that also come.
Okay.
Sometimes these, in the terminology of Brahma Samhita, these demigods are called prototype demigods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I see Prahladanand Prabhuji also has a hand raised. We'll give him a chance first and then we'll go to you, Prabhu, again. Yeah. Hare Krishna,
No,
Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a little reflection here.
Yeah, sure.
See, these technical things and all these things which we are studying, as you said, is very highly technical. And
Yeah.
I'm just, Satyam Prabhu is following this. But, this requires kind of repeated. I tell you that my own experience. First reading, first hearing, you will get confused. But as you go slowly again, 2, 3, I have read Bhagavatam 3 times, ditto, verbatim. And that's how, you can organize your thoughts and you can understand. So inquiries are good, but the thing is that, we have to do a lot of self-study, at least to understand these things. But the gist is this, that, Bhakti Marg and Gnan Marg, all right? This was in this 5th chapter, 47th slok, where he says that, those who are going Gnan mad, they are just kind of laboring hard. Klesho adhik taraste sam vyakta asakta chetasam. Bhagavan Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita like that. That those who are going after this Gnan mad, kind of laboring. I will not get what they'll just get liberation, which is not, the real thing. The real thing is Bhagavan Krishna's bhakti. Also in 10th chapter, I think 10th canto 14, he says, Shreya smriti bhakti mudasyate vivo, klishyanti keval bodh labde. Tesa maso klesa versisyate, nandya dathastul usavti ghatam. Those rice fields, you take up the rice and all those skins are left. If you do some kind of labor after them, you will not get anything. The rice you already taken out. Similarly, this bhakti is the real thing. This Gnan Marga, this is what Prabhupada Maharaj emphasizes so much. And throughout our sampradaya and all that, the gist is that, we go after bhakti, a seva, bhaja sevayam. And that's where we'll get all this knowledge, which, we are trying to understand. Swayam is Puratiyada. It comes to like, Krishna Namadina Bhavet Grahyam Indri. So get this knowledge, technical knowledge, you require study, abhyas and all that, lot of satsang, and it will come. But the easier way is to seven mukhe yuvadu. And that's how Swayam is Puratiyada. Bhagavan Krishna says, Matta Smrutir Gna Param. So if we please him by chanting and doing Vaishnava Seva, as you were saying, all this knowledge will sprout. And, we'll get organized knowledge in your mind. But that will take time. That's what is my experience. And I just recommend that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Padmini Mataji, please go ahead, Mataji.
Pranams, Babu.
Dandavat
Pranams. Thank you for the very lucid presentations that you had for the past 1 hours. I did follow most of it, but I had one clarification regarding the understanding of Krishna, the causes of causes. You gave us a beautiful table.
Mhm.
And in that table, of course, Baladeva is the first expansion. And then you mentioned another prototype of that that comes under Narayana. And then you have, again, the prototype of Vasudeva, Shankrishna, Pradyumna, and Anuruddha. That is the table shows.
Yeah, this is the one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
Mataji.
that is little. I didn't understand this component. Why you do have a prototype? And then is this Narayana is the one? Om Namo Narayana is the mantra of Narada himself, and is this Narayana is what he is keeping it in his mantras, or
Yeah.
I don't know whether could I ask this. Why do you need a prototype? Because the same thing, there is Baladeva, then again it's another expansion to Narayana. Then is it a kind of stepping down of the energies?
Oh, okay. Is your question like, why do we have one Chaturvyuha here and again another Chaturvyuha here? Is that the question?
Yeah, no, the same. Yeah, this is about each Chaturyugas. You mean to say that each stepping down is one Chaturyuga?
No, not Yuga. They call them, these are the four people, right? Four deities,
Yeah.
Vasudeva,
Yeah.
Sankarsana, Pradyumna, Anuruddha.
Yeah, so one is under Baladeva. Now the second one you have shown us with Narayana. So do you mean to say again somebody else comes with the same four components?
Exactly, yeah. They're expansions of Supreme Lord. I put in the comment, it's called Chaturvyuha. That means their expansion, the way Krishna expands is like this, our Acharya has described from scriptures basically. So that means Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, these are different personalities, but still they are all expansions of Krishna only, like that.
No, you have Baladeva, Prabhu, and then again, okay, see, because the confusion is who's Vishnu, who's Narayana. Right now, when people ask me those questions, I'm not able to clearly describe. So when this kind of chart comes, when we talk about Krishna and tell people about this, I should have certain clarity on Narayana and Mahavishnu, because in at least right in Tamil Nadu or in down south, that the Vishnu Tattva or the Narayana is the primary. And then when you talk more about Krishna, unless I am able to tell something, that by his grace, if I can understand this, perhaps I'll be able to share it with people.
Sure.
So can you please, if there is a possibility, can you tell me this Chaturyugas, and then how do you, tell people more than our understanding is Krishna's mercy. But how do you tell people? They first of all they need mercy. That is okay, but at
Correct.
least we have to tell,
Yes.
or
That's a
I
nice
have to
question.
understand more than that.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying the intention behind the question. That is important. Yeah, basically, this is the understanding from scriptures how Krishna is the original source from whom all this coming. That is clear for us.
That's
Now,
clear.
how to tell others? Basically, you understood. First thing is by mercy only anybody can understand. Number one.
Right.
Number two, if they want to understand only, they will understand. Otherwise, they will not understand. Number three, the way we can explain this principle is like this. But before we even explain the principle, why do we need to put the endeavor? I will tell you a little bit more. Their whole material population is there. Billions of people are there in the world. Out of them, majority of them don't follow Vishnu or Supreme Lord worship. Any form of Vishnu's worship they don't do. Like that. Compared to all those people, someone worshipping any Vishnu forms is superior. We should understand that. So they're amazing because they're going to the spiritual world directly. If they perfect their life through that path. That is one principle we can remember. And then coming to the common understanding, how Krishna is one of the Dasavataras of Vishnu. So how that conception is correct, and at the same time, this understanding is correct. How the Vishnu is coming from Krishna as the source. The way to understand this is with simple analogy, simple example I will give you. I heard it from my speech master, this example. Basically, the example is like Krishna, when somebody is coming from the door to the home, from outside to inside, is existing before entering the door also, and is
Yeah.
existing after entering the door also.
Yeah.
Right? Let us remember this example now. Now coming to Krishna and Vishnu. Krishna's the way operating model of the material creation is Vishnu accepts the worship, and anybody takes expansion, and anybody needs to come to this planet or material world, material universe, they need to come through Vishnu like a door, and Krishna respects that protocol. So somebody doesn't know that Krishna exists before coming through Vishnu, then they know half of the truth correctly. They understand correctly that from Vishnu, Krishna is coming.
Yeah,
But
that
they
is
have
avatars. That they
half
consider
understanding.
avatar. So most of the people in Vishnu Tattva are here. People think Krishna is one of the avatar coming from Vishnu, and
Correct.
it is very, very hard to make them realize beyond that what that we want to say. But of course, the mercy is a different component. Even our own system, how can you convince people? People who are very high, old, they are in Vishnu Tattva for years together. Maybe they know this, but they don't accept it.
No, they don't know the second half of the story. They only know Krishna is coming from Vishnu. But I mentioned Krishna is the source of this Vishnu, and Krishna is respecting the protocol of coming through Vishnu in this world, every incarnation. That they're not aware of.
That's
But yeah, that one
wonderful.
information.
That is wonderful understanding, Prabhu. Yeah. They are not aware. He is coming through Vishnu, even
Correct.
though he is a supreme Lord. That
Exactly.
just to go by the rules of the nature, he takes up the right route. He doesn't say I am supreme and he takes an end route to just jump into the world. That is the process. But here, mostly the
Yes.
understanding is common mass. They
Correct.
stop with Vishnu and Narayana and say nothing more beyond. That's all. They want to go to, they end with Vaikunta, and then the mass is that way.
Correct.
This is the problem we have here.
Exactly. But
Once
majority,
you know something, it is very difficult to infuse something more than that.
I can
If you
give
have
you,
people who don't know anything, you can tell them this is what it is. They accept. That's what Westerners do. They
Of
don't know
course.
anything, so it is easy to infuse. But if you know certain components from your childbirth and then you're so stuck with it, it is first of all removing is different, and then putting it into different, however, whatever mode you use. So only ways to listen to people like you, and constantly listen.
And also
so that you can
Shastra
melt.
Praman. Also Shastra Praman. We have Shastra Praman. Different scriptural references we can share. I might have a document that I can share with you. So
Please,
that also helps. If somebody
but
can really
nobody
rely on
seems to
Shastra.
have time to even listen. I don't leave alone reading. First of all, you have to listen. I used to tell people, why don't you come and listen? Oh,
Yeah.
who can get up at 3 o'clock? This is 3 o'clock in the morning, or who can get up? You. So
Yeah.
that kind of story. But the thing is, at least I thought I will get some understanding if I'm not wasting your time.
No,
So
that's
this
good.
is a very good information I got. So it's a gateway, is Lord Vishnu.
Correct.
And that is a pathway through which Krishna passes down. It is not that he emanates from Vishnu. The concept
Exactly.
here is, they believe that because he's passing through, somebody
Yes.
thinks like that if you pass through the gate, they don't see the gate at all.
Exactly.
So you think that you have brought in somebody. That's all it means.
Correct.
So thank you, Prabhu.
And there are wonderful scriptural references. You were in the group also, WhatsApp group also.
Yes, Prabhu.
So I'll share the wonderful scriptural references establishing Krishna as supreme, and what Jiva Goswami wrote of Krishna Sandarbha. Prabhuji, go ahead, Prabhuji.
I just wanted to add that the Shastra Praman is 1.3.28. Okay,
Yeah.
that is the Paribhas Sutra for the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Whole Srimad Bhagavatam Vyasdev put is because of that 1.3.2. Ete chance kala punse Krishnas to Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Loke Mrudiyanti Yuge. Vyasdev wanted to establish that Lord Krishna is original. Krishnas to Bhagavan Swayam. Right? All Vishnus are his expansions. In fact, Goswamis have classified Lord Krishna as 100%, and all Vishnus are 94%. Right? And this is what is previously, before coming to Prabhupada literature, I was also of that conviction that Vishnu is original. We all have this kind of understanding from start. And then as we go into this, and that, as I said, you said Shastra Praman, this is the most fundamental Shastra Praman, as it is known as Paribhas Sutra.
Prabhu, when we give Shastri Pramans, if I may intervene, it is said that is your Sampradaya, it is not my Sampradaya. That is the
Bhagavatam.
Objection,
Bhagavatam
Prabhu.
is accepted by all
happening.
Yeah. Bhagavatam is all Sampradaya.
Okay, thank you. That is an endless discussion. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Welcome, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. I'll share with you documents so you can see other references that from their Puranas also they can see. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Yes, Satyam Prabhu. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
I have a lot of questions and I'll continue.
Sure, Prabhuji.
So, in the same flow, like when this proto or immediate expansion of Vishnu before the other demigods, right? It was mentioned 39 to 43, like holy places, rivers and all. But at this point, like nothing was created, right? Like the rivers and holy places were created at that point?
This is also another question that they were asking Gauranga Darshan Prabhu in his Bhakti Vaibhava class. Same thing. So they're already existing in the Vedic time. Vedic is cyclical, right? Vedic time, like Prabhu was discussing yesterday also. That means not the first time that whole rivers will get created in the future. They're existing previously also. This is not the first time creation is happening. Creation happens, maintenance happens, annihilation happens. Then creation happens. Like that. So it's already understood, like that is described.
Oh, okay. But these okay.
Even though it's brand new, first time creation for us. But it's cyclical. Before that it existed also.
Oh, you mean other universes?
Other universes, yes, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. And when this not the demigods but the proto demigods, they were praying to Mahavishnu that give us whatever intelligence and anything, something like that too, so that we can serve you and continue the creation process, right? So how does they know what service they need to do to the Lord? It was never mentioned, like Vishnu didn't say, I want this service to be done by
they're also already internally inspired. For example, Lord Brahma was also like that. He was internally inspired that he to create, because that's the function he gave. That's why he got that inspiration like that. These are great personalities, right? They are already aware of the service with inspiration internally itself.
Okay. But at this point of time, Brahmaji was not born, right?
Not born yet, correct. Yeah.
Okay. And when you said like the Brahmaji saw the Lord, did he see Mahavishnu or did he see Krishna?
Here is a Vishnu form he saw. That's what is described there.
Okay, then at that time,
Specifically Garbhadasya Vishnu is the name used there, yeah, in that
so
section of verses.
he saw Garbhodakasha Vishnu, and whatever is he started praying, right? Is that the prayer is Brahma Samhita or is different?
Brahma Samhita is different. Brahma Samhita is Brahma's prayers to Supreme Lord. That whole different section. That is, my understanding is Brahma Samhita is coming after that Brahma Vimohan Lila or something like that. I don't know the exact. I can look up also. Anybody on the call knows when is the Brahma Samhita prayer recited by Lord Brahma?
Prabhuji, I am not sure, but what I've heard in the lectures is that the real Brahmaji's realization started after he heard Chatusloki Bhagavatam. Before that, he was even under illusion. What illusion? Okay. He ran after his own daughter. Vishwanath Chakravarti says that that Brahma was under illusion, but our Sampradaya Brahma is after he heard the Chatusloki Bhagavatam. This is what I've heard. I don't have a reference like that, but this is what I heard in a lecture. Like
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, if I find something, I'll share, Prabhuji, about Brahma Samhita when it is spoken specifically. Yeah.
But Chatushlaki, Brahmaji could heard only Chatushlaki Bhagavatam only after he's meditate and see the Lord, right?
Correct.
Because so my question is like which Lord is? You mentioned that it's Brahma. Garbhodakasha Vishnu, and Brahma Samhita is. Yeah, please.
We don't know. Puranas don't give importance to chronology. That's why we don't know exactly. But if I find something, I'll share with you. Yeah.
It's very interesting, all these things. And also, as Mataji was saying, if sometimes people just ask questions and where is the proof and all, then if we have this in back of our mind, then we can tell, hey, we can go here and this is where it is written. It's not like intention is not to acquire more knowledge, but more of like, if you want to tell the same story to my wife or someone, then we need to have this the references. Otherwise, people say, where it is written, can you tell me, like, is it?
Sure, yeah. Definitely that's a good thing to learn now for sure. But like Prabhu said, unless somebody has some faith, they will not listen. Even if you give reference, like Padmini Mata was saying, that's your parampara reference. Somebody wrote that book like that, they'll say. Yeah, but continue. Yeah, feel free to learn. That's good. That's good way of intelligence, worshipping Krishna with intelligence, learning scriptures.
When somewhere you mentioned, Prabhu, 5 elements of prayers. So can you repeat that one more time?
5 elements?
5 elements of prayers.
No, what I meant, 5 elements came during the creation, right? There's earth, water, fire, air, and ether.
No, you also mentioned somewhere like in prayers, there are like 5.
The 3 elements he mentioned about prayers. One is glorification of the Lord to start with. Yeah, that's the one you were saying.
That one you're talking about. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that element of a prayer, like obeisances, offering obeisances, glorification of the Lord, and then placing a request. That's not compulsory.
Okay.
Radhika Raman Prabhu shared in one of the seminars long time ago on prayers.
Yeah. And Pran Govind Prabhu always says that, whenever you go to altar, first glorify God. Pay obeisances and glorify.
Nice.
That's also common etiquette. If you go for any donation or anything, first you glorify.
Yes. Correct.
I think, yeah, I will go through your video and the presentation again.
Sure.
It's like very interesting. It's like stories flowing.
Absolutely, bro. Very interesting.
And you are
yes.
sharing these PowerPoints on our portal, right, Prabhuji?
Yes,
they are excellent. They are excellent. As I said yesterday, what I do usually, I also preach here.
Uh-huh.
So I print out all these PPTs, make files them, and systematically preach whatever little we can. Like
Wonderful,
that.
Prabhuji.
And this is really good, to attend these classes and all that.
Very nice,
Thank
Prabhu.
you very
Yeah.
much again. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah. I'm basically taking from Gauranga Darshan Prabhu only, nothing
Yes,
brand new
yes,
coming from me.
Subodhinis are excellent,
Yes,
actually.
yes,
So I
Prabhuji.
bought all of them, and
Yes.
even Chaitanya, Chaitamrita, all them. They are really
Yeah.
good. Yeah, these ones.
Wonderful.
Yeah. That's real
Yes.
good. But
Yes.
we require a little kind of time, and
Yes.
otherwise busy things are, you can cover very little in a day. Like 24 hours is very short.
Absolutely, Prabhuji. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right.
And
Very
Prabhu,
good.
Yeah.
just pass on my request to the
Yeah.
organizers, like
Sure.
4 chapters, sometimes it's too heavy.
I'll send a message about the number of chapters, right? I'll send a message right away. Yeah, after this call. Yes.
Sure.
And then I'll fix the PowerPoint. One slide I made a mistake. I'll fix that and upload it. Yeah. I'll send it to admin to upload it. Yeah.
And we'll have class tomorrow, right, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah. And the 4 chapters. Yeah. After these technical chapters go, you'll get into story and nice stories later on.
Yeah.
Oh, Rajeshwar Pran Mataji is saying, go ahead, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, then Pranam, all bless Srila Prabhupada. What a wonderful class, Prabhu. I don't know how you're covering 4 chapters in one day. Like, it is so nice. You're able to condense it, but you're also bringing about nice nectar. Also, very nice. For me, it's very hard. I have to, like verse by verse. I'm used to verse by verse, but you're condensing very nicely and pointing out the important points. I just wanted to share mine, Prabhu, but if you allow me, I don't know if I'm about Patni Mataji question. The first question, I understood that she was asking why there is prototype, why there is more than one Chaturvyuhas. I understood that question. If I understand that question correct, if you see in the flow chart of Krishna's expansion, starting from Krishna and then Balaram, and then 4 Chaturvyuhas, and there is a beautiful flow chart. We can share that in the WhatsApp. In that, if you look at that, Vyuhas means it's God or gods. So directions are gods. That's what Vyuha. Chatur means 4. And in that, some Chaturvyuhas guard the Mathura, and some will be Dwaraka, and some will be in Vaikunta. So there is a different functions for each of them. It is not just simply a repetition. If you see in the flow chart, the top is the Goloka Vrindavan, and then comes the Mathura, then Dwaraka, then Vaikunta, then the material world. So the 4 Chaturvyuhas, the way it's placed, a couple of them will be in the Dwaraka, a couple of them will be in the Mathura, and then the 4 will be in the Vaikunta. And they will be guarding, and then they're some are in the right side, some are in the left side, north, south, right. So that the placement and their functions and the locations, all some specifics. So it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. So so I just wanted to point out I was also wondering why there's a Mula first Chaturvyuha, then when there is one, why they have to expand again as a second one. Because of the placement. That's my understanding. I will share the picture in the WhatsApp group that I was referring to.
Yeah, please
and
share,
then
Mataji.
the second one I wanted to add, Prabhu, but yesterday, thank you so much for answering all the questions in a beautiful way with all the reference in the WhatsApp group. It is really, really nice, Prabhu. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we can always go back and refer also. Especially the Yogamaya, Mahamaya questions, those things always come.
Yes,
and the reference is really important, because once we hear, after some time, it goes in the back of the mind. It's hard to sometimes recollect, but when there is reference, we can always go back and freshen up. So you're doing such a nice service. So thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
And about the Brahma Samhita prayer, I read from His Holiness Sachinananda Swami Maharaj about it's the Gayatri book. So in the Gayatri book, he mentions there is no what is the reference, but he mentions after Brahma receives the Gayatri mantra, the second one, he first received the Gayatri from Goddess Saraswati, then he receives the second one from Krishna itself, from that flute.
you know. And it comes to his 8 year olds, and that's the way he receives the second Gayatri, the twice second born. So after that, when he get enlightened, and then he also have a chance to even see the transcendental abode. Like that's what I think that's what it means. He had a visualization of the Goloka Vrindavan and Krishna. And then out of that, after he chanted the Gayatri Mantra, he was able to compose the beautiful prayer, which is Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajan. So he writes, the Maharaj wrote right after that, in that chapter, after he receives the Gayatri, he was able to compose that beautiful prayers because of his direct realization or transcendental realization, which he gained from chanting the Gayatri. So I think the Brahma Samhita prayer is happen at that time. That's what I understood from that chapter that I read from the Gayatri book.
Oh, thank you so much, Mataji, for sharing that. Yeah, Satyam Prabhu, you got the answer for that question. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. I just
do you have
wanted to
1 or 2 minutes?
Yeah, I have time, Prabhu. Please go ahead, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah, the thing is, if you read the first few pages of introduction and of Brahma Samhita, there's a beautiful, beautiful, detailed kind of explanation of how this. First is that, he's saying about Sahasrapatra Kamalam, right? Sahasrapat Kamalam is where it starts. And then there is a Karnikaram, which is in the form of Satkorn, 6 like that. And the 6 forms is Klim Krishnai Govindai Gopijan Vallabhai Swaha. Swa and Ha are the last 2 portions like that. And the Klim inside is in center of the Satkorn is where Lord Sri Radha Krishna is there. This is what Brahma said. I have put the figures and everything. And that Sahasra Kamal is actually supported by Balaram. That is Anant Shesh, Anant, his name is like that. And there are petals like that, which are abode of gopis, which is Aram, the Karnikaram, like that. And that detail of that Satkon is given along with, there is a square around that. And that square is Vasudev, Sankarsan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Also, it is Ruk, Sam, Acharvan, Yaju. All these 4 Vedas are also in there. And all these details, if I have put a picture here, myself to understand like that. But it is very detailed. If Satyam Prabhu or Madaji wants to go there, go slowly, each word, like she was mentioning about Klim Krishna, Govinda, Gopijanul Vaiswaha, Klim Kamdev Vidmehe Pushbana Dhimahi Tanno Nanga Prachodat. All these Kam Bij Gayatri and Gayatri are given in that realization of Sri Brahmaji. And that's where where did he get from flute of Lord Krishna and all that. So it's very detailed there. And, if you have time, you can really make a picture and understand what all these detailed things are there. But they're very interesting, actually. All right. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
After hearing all these, now I realize probably Bhakti Yoga is the easiest path to go. It's like too much information, too much knowledge to grasp, too much to understand.
Yeah. And the good thing is Krishna will give us mercy to understand what we need at any time also, any stage. That's a good thing. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
I don't know, Mataji has anything more to share, Mataji? Or did we interrupt you?
No, Prabhu. No, I'm fine. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Yeah,
Prabhu,
thank you so
for
much,
giving
Mataji.
me time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Let's offer obeisances. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Let's offer obeisances to all the devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kupasandubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much, devotees, for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.